Hello and welcome back to the channel. This morning, I felt the need to jump on this topic right here. What does the future look like? More specifically, what does the future look like for the next generation? I pose this question because it is becoming more and more clear that as things spiral downward on this earth, that there are some people who simply do not care about the next generation. There are things that are happening that is literally destroying the planet. But there doesn't seem to be any forethought as to what the future generation is going to be faced with. So we're talking about grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And those that are being born into the earth today, they are going to be looking at something totally different than what most of us are used to. Not saying that the planet was in the greatest of shape during our time on this earth, but as we move more and more into the future, we are going to see that the next generation is not going to be happy campers at all. Now, part of that is because of how the earth is being treated. The Bible talks about how the earth is groaning because of its treatment. And I'm talking about the actual planet, right? That doesn't even include how we deal with one another, how people are treated by people, you see. And so, as we move into the future, things are looking more and more bleak. Many times you'll see a futuristic movie, and they will show where the food is so scarce that they are actually eating supplements, pill-like supplements as a meal. They show where people are attempting to become hunter-gatherers again, but don't have the skill to achieve it. Some of these future films also show where the food that people hunt for is extinct. Animals. When you think about the fact, too, of the Terminator technology that they are using for some seeds, for growing food, you have to ask yourself, so if the animal population has died out, and the seeds that are coming forth today are Terminator seeds, which means they cannot produce after their own kind, what does that tell you about the future? Also, there are so many chemicals being released into the atmosphere that is killing off bees. Now, let me tell y'all something. I want to insert this little bit of information here before I go forward. Now, we have some wood columns that were just laying down, some old columns that we had years ago that are hollowed out. They're very old. They come from, I believe they said, a home from the 1800s or 1900s, and they were just kind of laying under a covered carport area. And we were going to use them in the future for something, right? We got them at a very good price, but let me tell you what we discovered recently. Inside of those hollowed wood columns are thousands of bees, and we have not yet determined what we are going to do with those thousands of bees. They have taken up nest in there, and they are living there. And so I know how important bees are to the planet. We know how important bees are to the planet. But at the same time, they can, they can be quite frightening if you don't know what to do around them, right? And so we are faced with, what do we do? Do we call someone? We don't want to exterminate them, you know what I mean? Because bees are very helpful to the planet. So as we look into the future, you have decisions and choices to make, and you can't be rash in some of your decisions, but you can't be docile either. You can't be too hasty in some of your decisions, but you also can't afford to sit still in a seat of do nothing. I must admit that the question has come to my mind for the next generation: what does the future look like? Because things from the time that I was a child until now is quite different than what my children are looking at and faced with, and the rest of the young people of the world, right? Now, our older children, the life that they are living now is pretty much, if this is the current events, our adult children, right? But what about our younger children 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now? What are they going to be faced with? What condition is this planet going to be on? What have mankind done to this planet to ensure that their futures are going to be dark and dismal? Now, of course, those of you who know what I believe, the Bible specifically says certain things. Certain things have been prophesied, right? So I don't believe that we are to worry about these things. I'm just bringing this to the attention of those who want to believe that the Most High doesn't exist. Those who don't want to believe biblical prophecy, even though we see much of it unfolding right before our eyes. Those of you who are not acting in accordance to biblical prophecy. Those of you who are not living in accordance to biblical prophecy, but those of you who are just living your life as if there is no tomorrow. Meaning no preparation, no care nor concern about how you treat the planet, no care nor concern about how you treat others. What does the future look like for the next generation? Is the next generation learning to fortify and strengthen relationships? Or has social media made it so that this next generation have no problem with burning bridges and in some cases completely tearing them down to where there is no looking back, no turning back once you dissolve a relationship? I believe that social media has created an antisocial society. People who cannot deal fairly with one another. No love in the atmosphere because people have grown so cold. People have been given a platform to wreak havoc in the lives of others. That's a whole other topic in and of itself. But when you think about your children and your grandchildren, how does it make you feel? What does the future look like? What should we be doing right now? Now, of course, from a biblical standpoint, we need to prepare our children both naturally and spiritually. Preparing them for spiritual warfare. Preparing them to fortify their natural lives. This is not anybody else's job. You see, too many times you have parents who depend on others. They depend on a system to prepare their children for the future. They depend on a system to help them to forge ahead, to help them to survive, literally. You have some people who just don't think that it's important for them to grow their own food, raise their own livestock, fortify their lives. Everything in their lives they believe that it's somebody else's responsibility to take care of. So what does the future look like for the next generation if this generation is not training them up in the way that they should go? If this generation isn't equipping them with the knowledge and skill that they need to forge ahead, what does the future look like for the next generation? If some of the old trades that are needed and still going to be needed in the future are not being passed on to the next generation, what does the future look like for this next generation if they are not picking up the skills and the trades of their parents and grandparents and great grandparents. Now, a lot of this have something to do with the eye candy that the world has presented. The world is showing young people a way where they don't have to do much at all. Just sit back and depend on somebody else. And so many are going with that. They're saying, look, we have a system that'll take care of you if you just do what you're told. No need to grow food. We'll grow it for you. No need to do all of that. We'll do it for you. And these young people are doing just that. They say, as long as we have entertainment, somebody got something that I can listen to or something that I can watch, that's all I need. So some of it falls on the young people, and that they have been lured away by a system of distraction. Some of it falls on the older generation because they have not even attempted to teach the next generation. However, in some cases, the next generation aren't even interested in learning, even though there are some in the older generation that have tried to teach them and pass along skills. In our farm ministry, we meet a lot of farmers, y'all, because we see farming as a ministry, because there is going to be a need for people to eat in the future, right? Okay. And as we've seen, that store shelves can't empty out. As we've seen, trucks can stop rolling. And so I think everybody needs to have the mindset of, let me grow extra. Let my ministry be to grow extra so that I can give to the next person. Even if you're just giving of your seeds. Listen, y'all. When people think of ministry, they think that it has to be some big mega church where there's a big bishop preaching every Sunday, right? Ministry goes beyond preaching, y'all. It goes beyond preaching. It goes into teaching. It goes into providing and helping others. And so I would encourage as many as are under the sound of my voice. Don't always to look to do something so big and magnificent that people will look at you and say, wow. But let's say you have a backyard plot of land that you are growing food on. What if you set aside a section where you're going to say, look, I'm going to grow food right here. And this I'm going to give to my local food bank or to some of the local churches so that they can give to their members who may be in need. Or just enough to grow and give to my neighbors. What if we all had that mindset? What if we said, I'm going to grow this extra food and I'm just going to drop it off here at this place or at that place? What if you grew extra food and you had a food stand, but you said, you know what? This is going to be the stuff that I'm going to give away. So as we look into the future, we can sit here and wonder what the future is going to look like, or we can do things collectively to improve the future for the next person and the next generation, passing on skills, knowledge, understanding, putting them in the mindset of helping others as well. What if you trained your children in that way so that the next generation knows that, look, you got to do something, you got to do something. Too many people are sitting their children down in front of televisions and video games, and that's all they know to do. Because everybody thinks that the future is etched in stone. They believe that the future, well, technically it is, as it relates to the Creator, okay? But everybody believes that the future for them is just going to be, hey, it's going to be pretty much like it is right now today. Nobody thinks that things in the future are going to spiral downward to the point where it's going to be a struggle just to live or just to survive. So this is why we encourage people. We encourage people to understand what the Bible says when it talks about the future of this planet. There are certain things that if you do these things, you are guaranteed that you're going to be all right. Guaranteed. And much of it deals with having faith and trust in our Creator. Now, for those of you who don't believe He exists, I don't know what to say for you. But guess what? The Bible says how there's going to be a time that regardless to whether they want to or not, it says every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that the Most High is who He say He is. He is the creator of heaven and earth. So anyway, if you have the right perception of the future, the right understanding of the future doesn't have to look so dark. Of course, we know certain things are going to unfold because it was already prophesied. But we also know that the Most High says, I have made a way of escape to those that believe. So if we keep that in mind and we do what it is we must do in this hour, we can walk into the future without fear. All right, y'all, I am done with this video. Thank you for tuning in. Leave your comments below, but until next time, enjoy the rest of your day. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.